let's start with this quote that I found from Sir Nelson Mandela. Yeah, someone who Mark is quite familiar with. And he said that if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to a man in his language, that goes to his heart. Okay, and just to break the ice today, what I'd like to know is what did Nelson Mandela meant when he said this, and how we can use communication in a way where we get the message across, where we're not only speaking in a language that that man or woman can understand, but we're speaking in a language of the man himself.
Hi there, Adrian here, and this is a video from a Zoom session that we do. We do these Zoom sessions every Sunday and we take questions and answers from the audience, some of our students, some of our members. We never know what questions are coming up, so I'm always excited to do these sessions and I hope to see you at one of them. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below and check out the other playlists that we have. Thank you, enjoy.
Okay, so here are the motivation patterns. Okay, so we've got proactive or reactive, criteria, hot buttons. I'll touch on each of these with a slide and some words as we go. Direction. Now, this is a really interesting one. Do you go towards goals to attain them, or do you actually go away and avoid and prevent things happening? I found this really interesting because it means a lot when you're trying to set people to achieve things. Really important one. Source is, what do people use when they are making judgments? Do they listen to what other people do, or do they look at internal values and standards? One's called reason. Okay, so this is options or procedures. And then the final one is called decision factors in terms of how you make your decisions. Okay, if you can pop on, Dino, for the next one. Thank you. Okay. Now, what we've got here is proactive or reactive. In the brackets, it's giving you the rough population spread of people. So about 15 to 20% are proactive people. They take the initiative, they get going, they do things, and they don't really think too much and they just jump in, okay? The bigger proportion are equally proactive and reactive. So it depends on the context of the situation that they're in. So in some cases, they jump in very quickly. Other cases, they might need a bit more information before they actually react. And then 15 to 20% of people are what we would call reactive, and they motivated to wait, listen, analyze, consider, react. So they're not going to do things very quickly. So obviously, this is really important if you're looking at team structures and things like that, to be aware of your different people and how they're going to react, because how you manage them will also be different too in that situation. Okay, can you just move to the next slide, please, Dina? Right, now obviously what I've done for each of these traits here is to try and give some examples of some of the language that an individual might use. Because obviously when you're talking to people and you're trying to assess what kind of person they are, if you can pick up some of these markers as you go along, that will help you get an idea of what that person is. So proactive people will use short sentences, quick, do it, go for it, jump in now, get it done, don't wait. Whereas the reactive person means, I'd like to understand that a bit more. Can we think about it? No, I need to see some facts and analyze it. We could do this. So you can see it's immediately slower, more considered in how they will talk. So you'll pick that up also in terms of how they might speak. And then the majority of us obviously are fitting somewhere in the middle. So it depends on the situation they're in. I know for me in my work, there'll be some bits which I can make a decision just like that. And then other bits, it's like, no, I need to see a bit more because there's more things to think about and I'd need some more data. So that's a good example. And I think most of us, as I say, we fit in this middle group, just depends on what's happening. Sometimes you can be quick and sometimes you might want to do a little more digging, looking around. Right, okay. Response stress. How does a person react to normal stresses in a given context? Because obviously this depends on the context you've got. And this is an interesting one. So if you were thinking about somebody who was a call center person, you wouldn't want a feeling person, because if they have a really bad experience with a customer, they're going to be probably pretty useless for the rest of the day, because their feelings have all been upset and things like that. So feeling, you don't want people who are feeling for stress. For super stress, you actually want thinking people who don't really have much feeling at all. So if you're thinking of an air traffic controller or someone like that, you want a thinking person, because they can just keep focused on going through those steps. And it doesn't matter what's happening outside, we are just going through those steps. So for really, really high pressure stuff, you want a thinking person, because they're not going to actually interact with feelings or things like that. So that's quite interesting, that one. So I thought about that. And then obviously the very, very big chunk of us is choice. You can obviously have some feelings, you can have and think as well. And that's the vast bulk of us. But it does mean for certain real pressure jobs, you need a thinking person. Yeah, I agree with you. Emotional air traffic controller. Whew, I'll be going by road. So yeah, interesting one. So different jobs, this is an important part. So as I say, your customer care person, you don't want to be a feeling person, because they'll have bad days and they won't be able to work properly. So you want somebody who can divorce themselves a little bit from emotion. Okay. Right. Thanks, Dino. Okay, so yeah, here are some of the words you might think as like thinking is clearly, logical, rational, cold. You might describe them as cold because they don't have any social interaction. That would be a good indicator of someone who's just very, very thinking under stress. Statistics, no empathy, hard facts. Choice, obviously, we have the ability to have empathy when we want it, be appropriate, makes good sense, so you can understand what other people are feeling and base your decision a little bit off that. And then feeling, I'm sure we probably know a few of these people, when something goes wrong, it goes all wildly wrong and it's all terrible. And it's a big thing. Those people have a big reaction. Okay. You don't want them under stress, because they're just going to, everybody around them is going to get stressed out because of the way they react. Okay. So you don't want those kind of people in a very highly stressed environment. But they'll be fantastic for other things, in terms of if you want to get lots of energy and getting them doing things, because they will be very feeling. So probably very creative people will have more of those. Right, this is a really important one here, given especially what we've been going through with COVID and those kind of things, and how the work environment is changing. And if you want to get the best out of people, what is going to be the right way for them? Some people are happy, chuffed to bits to be working from home, don't need to see their colleagues, and are very comfortable with that. So we got 20% of those people who can literally stand alone, and they'll be absolutely fine. The vast majority of us do like people around, though we do want to have our little area around us which we have control. And I think if you look back, most people like to be in control, so that kind of makes sense. But we still want to have people around us as well. Okay, so it's an area of control with people around them. So this would be working in the office, and you might be working on different projects, and you meet up with people and you have those emotional connections and things like that. So that's 60%, which is the vast bulk. And then the bottom 20% are people who have to work in a team. You couldn't get them. So for them, lockdown has probably been an absolute disaster. It's been probably absolutely nightmare, because they can't connect. They can't go and see people. These people need to see people. And seeing them on a video probably won't cut the mustard at all for them. There will be people who need to connect and have people in the same place and feed off that energy and do that. So those are 13 people. So when you're looking at business and work and things like that, this is something to bear in mind. So working at home all the time will be great for a smaller percentage of people. Most people do need to have that people interaction in some cases, and some have to have it all the time. Okay, so this is an important bit for your businesses or in whatever you're doing, is just to remember that. And I know for me, I definitely need to see people. I couldn't stay at home all the time because I get connections and I feed off the energy when I see people. So that for me is really important. I don't need to work in a team all the time, but I do need to have people around me on that side. Thanks, Dino. Okay, so here's a few bits of your words that you might have. Obviously, without interruption, responsibility, do it alone, you're alone. Proximity, this is probably good. So a lot of managers probably should be proximity. So they'll lead people. You'll run a project, for example, or something like that. So most of your, I guess, people who are managing teams should probably sit in the proximity one. And then you'll get some who just want to cooperate. Now, I think this is a useful one. It's interesting because I'm sure you've had the statement where that some people are great team members, but they're absolutely rubbish leaders. And I'm sure people have got experiences of that. So people, and you see in business or things, they get promoted, and they suddenly get made boss. They out of their little comfort zone now. Then they not in a team, not for them, that can cause an issue. So I'm sure you've seen this and exposed where some people have been amazing in one situation and then they get promoted and they're much more on their own and they become a fish out of water. I certainly have seen that. And I would say probably I'm much more proximity person or cooperative. I'm definitely not an independent on that side. So it's interesting to see this. So this is when, if you're looking at who you're going to put in charge of teams or things like that, this is something to bear in mind. Which are the right kind of people? Because an amazing team player might not be the best leader because they always feeding off everybody else and maybe can't make a decision.
Boom! You made it here! Good on you. Make sure you click the subscribe button below and check out the playlist at the end. If you'd like to come along to our Sunday sessions where we host a live, free Q&A for our students and members, you're welcome. I'll see you there.